when I was first elected 4 years ago, my goal was to be an effective representative for not only my district, but upstate New York and across the state. And we've been very successful in establishing a good relationship with members of both parties.
As a businesswoman, what I know is that you find a problem, you identify everybody else who has a similar problem, you bring everybody together, and you leverage the skills and resources that each person has around the table to get things done. That our legislators, we let our legislators get away with not doing that, where we let them sit on the sidelines and say, well, I can't work with them because they're not in my party, is really astonishing to me. And I think that the approach that I bring as a business person is to recognize that the goal is to fix the problem. It doesn't matter who you have to work with to get the problem fixed. The goal is to fix the problem.
And when we were first faced with a legislative proposal by then Governor Patterson to cut VLT funding to Saratoga Springs, I was one of the first to be very loud in opposing that proposed cut during that legislative budget process.
One of the things that I think we learned from when the legislation was passed to renew the license for NYRA, and when the enabling legislation was passed for the VLTs, is that the language that gets put in those agreements has to be really locked down and tight, so that funding from VLTs, funding from casino gaming, if that comes in, is in fact allocated on an annual basis to the breeders, to the racing industry, and to the host communities.
I think the best way to bring jobs to the region is to reverse the trend that has existed in New York State and has led us to be ranked 50th out of 50 states as far as job environment and taxes. We are working hard to eliminate the barriers to growth, to development of jobs, and to development of businesses who want to locate here. Most importantly, we need to work to continue to make businesses want to choose to stay in New York. If you improve the business climate for our job makers and job creators, that will allow them to retain employees, to add important positions, and to pay their employees more.
Jobs has really been a centerpiece of my campaign. I run a small software business. We've got 4 folks working here on Broadway. Right now, we hope to have 5 next year. We're small and profitable and growing. And one of the things that I know from my business experience is what businesses need, the kind of regulatory reform we need to streamline things, to make it possible for small businesses particularly to start up and flourish. I would like to think that in 6 years I can accomplish what I think we need to accomplish to create a better business climate for creating jobs in this region, fixing the funding for rural upstate schools where the state is just systemically underfunding our schools, and creating a reinvestment in our downtowns to really create a flourishing environment for small businesses.
Do you think there's
one area where I think there definitely needs to be change, in New York State especially, we have allowed the legislative process to be controlled by 1 or 2 individuals in leadership who control all of the funding and all of the resources. And I think one thing I would definitely support are term limits for our legislative leaders.
Term limits are, I think, are a good idea. My only concern with that is you end up creating a situation where the people who have the institutional knowledge are the lobbyists and the staffers, who are not necessarily accountable to the people.
And the bill that I sponsor is a bill that looks at why are many electeds staying in office in perpetuity. And it would be to take elected officials, especially at the state level, out of the retirement system, which is referred to as the defined benefit system, and put all elected officials at the state level into a defined contribution type retirement system, more consistent with the 401ks most businesses offer, to eliminate the incentive to try to stay in forever to build up a retirement.
I collect mandates. I've got lists of them. You can get them from every group you meet with. Has a list of mandates that are driving up property taxes, driving costs. I've got lots of lists. And part of the challenge is that there are so many of them and there are so many lists that it's impossible. It's hard to find the place to start. So I have my 5 because I'm a practical person, and I think, you know what, let's just pick 5.
In all of our conversations with elected officials and leaders in our schools, counties, towns, the top 2, especially at the county level, the top 2 unfunded mandates are pensions and Medicaid. The problem with the Medicaid program in New York is we spend more on Medicaid than Texas and California combined. I think what our proposal is will go a long ways toward addressing that burden, and that is have New York adopt the top 26 or 27 programs that they think are vital for all residents, and then allow counties some flexibility, because Saratoga County is very different from Chautauqua County or Kings County, and they have the best ability to know what works for their particular region and allow them to utilize that type of selection process.